Seriously, why? Why is this happening? What is going on? I need a break. Oh, yeah. Hi! Sorry, I was just watching a terrible, Our Season 7 episode. But anyway, time for, WD Nor. This is a movie which is more nostalgic to me than probably any movie I've covered here so far. Why didn't I do this one first? Well, because I thought doing the others first before this? I mean, I don't know. This movie's a weird one. I have seen a few reviews for this movie, but it's not like they're the main part. I don't really think anyone's looked twice at this movie. Most people don't even know what it is. So, let's get into this, shall we? First of all, no! It is not planned that I do 2 Shrinking movies in a row. That is just a coincidence. It's not like I'm doing The Toy Shop next to make that 3 movies about children shrinking in a row. No! That's coming later. Right now, I am talking about this movie because I want to talk about this movie. I didn't delay this just because it's a Shrinking movie and that's what I did last. It is completely unintentional. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about what we have to do here. Like every movie I've covered in this series, and every movie I will ever cover in this series, probably, it is based on a book. This one being a 1999 children's book by John Nichol. It doesn't really seem to be anything special, and does just seem to be like maybe even a shortened version of a movie. Maybe this is the best adaptation. I don't know. Who knows? It looks interesting, but nothing much to say there. As again, I can't be bothered to read some of these. I just read the descriptions on Wikipedia and call it a day. Anyway, on to the production. Now, Tom Hanks conceived the idea of an animated film adaptation for this book. After reading it to his child, he sent a copy to John A. Davis, who is the person famous for making Jimmy Neutron, the hit show. Yeah, and the Oscar-nominated movie that came before the show. Now, he was wondering why to be, and so he said that you may have been fooled that this was to do with like previous Ant movies, like Ants or the Ant Bully, like kind of like doing on the thing. But this movie came out 8 years after those 2 movies did, and was based on a book. Unlike those 2 movies. Well, Ants might be based on a book. I've never seen that movie, nor do I know anything about it. So it might have been based on something, but we know why. But we know why it was made. So I doubt that. But so I don't think so. This doesn't have anything to do with that. Although this movie does often get confused with those movies and associated with them, even though being very different from both of them, I presume. Again, I've never seen one of them. So Hanks and Davis work together on this movie, and it really did come into peace. And they said that it's a completely different story, as it's just not another Ant movie. It seems to be it seems to have an interesting production, and not an awful one either. Okay. Usually now is the time where it cuts to a clip of me just talking about how we've done with the production, and I'm onto them, and I'm about to watch the movie. But now I'm just gonna say I've just watched the movie. So it's kind of going like this is an introduction to the review portion of the video, because, well, before, when I did the production side, I just said, hey, I don't really wanna record anymore, I don't feel like it, so I just stopped and waited a few days, and once I got back to remembering that I didn't record the introduction, I thought I'd just watch the movie anyway. So how was this movie? Well, I personally think it was okay. It's not as good as the last Shrinking movie we reviewed. I still think it's a pretty good movie, to be honest, though. So first of all, this movie's plot is a little simplistic, and might be one of its biggest pros, and also one of its biggest cons. It's a movie that's easy to follow, as, well, we probably know what's going to happen next. I mean, there's not that much surprises, I guess. Because, the movie's about this guy, Lucas, becoming a better person as he listens to the ways of ants. So, he just goes through motions. There's also, a plot about stopping an ant exterminator from getting there, and, few scenes of that, but I'm not sure if I would call it a main plot. I'm not sure if it is really a main plot here. There's not really a main conflict other than just Lucas trying to become an ant and the exterminator. Obviously, I mean, metaphorically becoming an ant, but it was, different. So, I don't know. It's kind of strange. I mean, I liked most of it, but kind of like this. But the story can be a little too simplistic at times. You can see where it's going, and again, this movie honestly doesn't have that much of a story. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but as they do develop this movie well without a clear story, because the conflicts are very simple. They're still kind of there, I guess. Now the characters. Okay, the protagonist Lucas, I think he goes through some really good development. I do he gets bullied by someone because he feels so small, he wants to feel big, so that makes sense why he goes to torture some ants. It makes a lot of sense, especially as he doesn't know that ants are sentient, which obviously is just he just thinks they're just like when they're arguably more intelligent than humans. It's a bit weird world building. I forgot to say that, like, there's a message of a movie which is clearly supposed to be like, the movie is a very collectivist movie, and I think if you're really not a big fan of collectivism, you might not like this movie a lot because it does not. It promotes the message of like everyone should always work together, and like if everyone worked together, the world would be a better place. To be fair, I don't really like this aspect of the movie, just because like on humans, because ants working together is mostly to protect their colony from humans and bigger creatures. Humans usually protect themselves from other humans, and working together to protect themselves as a whole. Is that really such a good comparison? I mean, they're clearly different subjects. It's a little strange how this is constructed. I don't want us to take away from this, but I'm not a collectivist myself, I have to point that out. I'm not an individualist either. The debate is nonsense to me, but I just have to say that for the record. Back to Lucas. He's fun, he's interesting, and yeah, he does develop. I like the bond he builds with Hover. I like his banter with Zoc even. I mean, he's pretty good. And then there's of course Zoc, played by Nicolas Cage, which, yeah, people, yeah, that someone which is honestly the best character in the movie. I find him pretty funny, and I like his interactions with Lucas. Him doubting Lucas makes the most sense because of his character and all that. His mistrust of humans makes complete sense. But it also makes sense how other people treat him because he's not open-minded. But to be fair, he's the only major character we see. We don't really see other ants and stuff in the movie. Like being so pro Lucas. It's only really the three main characters who have got to know and have got to bond with Lucas. Zoc is important because, well, he's the main person of the movie to just like go, hey, I don't like Lucas. Zoc is a very interesting character because, well, magic in this world isn't fully explained. It's never explained how Zoc has these powers or anything like that, but it's just a small element. I don't think it really needs to be explained. Not every magic system has to be amazingly complex, but if CinemaSins ever does a video on it, on this movie, which probably will never happen, but if you get so boring for ideas, to this movie, that's definitely going to be mentioned, even though it really doesn't fucking matter. But anyway, he's the straight man for a lot of the movie, and yet we don't see many other ants' opinions, so Zoc probably isn't alone. in like is ashamed of humans, because when we see Lucas with other ants, don't hate him. Like at the end, we try to arrest him, but I mean, they're not so pro Lucas because we haven't heard anything, have they? The only part they had, the only part which supports this is when they're all cheering for the Destroyer earlier in the movie, but that doesn't really do that much, you know. I guess it does, but yeah, it's a sheer amount. Now, other than that, other than Zoc, there's Hova, who, by the way, Hova and Zoc being a couple, I forgot that was a thing when I watched this movie, quite a bit as a kid. I forgot that was a thing because it's such a small thing. I guess it is matters for the plot because it's needed for Zoc to keep checking up on Hova, and it's the reason why he buys Lucas in the first place, so, but it doesn't really feel like a big thing. It's an established relationship, though, so it's not like anything really goes. Hova's the nice one, the only friend Lucas has, and she's pretty much just that and nothing else. She's not really that interesting, or funny, or anything like that. But she serves her purpose. She's not the greatest character, but she serves her purpose, I guess. Then we have, Kreela and Thojax. Kreela is just a character that's there. I guess she's there to, train Lucas at, the beginning of the movie, but after that scene, she just does nothing. Neither does Kojak, really, but Kojak brings the comedy, so you can at least argue. And I guess one of the parts of Kojak's comedy is how much he plays off Kreela, but I don't know. I kind of like Kojak's because he's funny. I mean, he doesn't get annoying. I was surprised how funny this movie was, actually. I don't remember its humor being good when I was a kid, but its humor is pretty good. This is a pretty funny movie. I laughed quite a bit in this movie, which is kind of strange. Now let's just talk about So you were expecting me to talk about the villain. Well, this movie doesn't really have one. The closest thing we have to one is the Exterminator, who's only in 2 scenes, and even then, I think he's unfairly portrayed. He said he kind of shares the same problem. He's so cartoony, hilariously cartoony. I mean, what Exterminator takes this much delight in doing their job? And that's another thing, he's just doing his job. He shares, a similar problem to, Sid in Toy Story, where he doesn't know he's doing something wrong. Especially at the end, did he know that the ads were sentient all along, where it just gives him a just desserts? It just reminds me of the ending of Toy Story. And it's kind of worse in this specific example, because, well, it might be better because, obviously, they know that they're living things, and some bugs, they're living things, he knows that, but it's his job, it's not something he does for fun, it's his job, and, he's deemed as, the ant devil or something. It's kind of strange how cartoony they portray this guy, and, there's a scene where they go to and it's just, and Lucas nearly orders pizza, and it's supposed to be funny. There's this beetle and glowworm I really hated, and there was this scene inside of a frog that is the only thing anyone remembers about this movie, because it's fucking disgusting and I hated it, and it was kind of funny about that guy who panicked and just then celebrated that he was free, and only to fall into another frog and die again. This movie probably has a lot of deaths, but it's not really called upon. I don't know. Like, Kojak should be dead, definitely. There's like 3 points into where he definitely should have died. But he survived because he's one of the main characters. But I'm pretty sure half the colony, like, actually died. But I kind of think it makes some sort of sense. I don't know. This is, for the most part, a good movie. Okay? Yeah. So, we've talked about the movie. And how, yeah, I think it was decent. Not the best, but not the worst. I haven't found a movie on this series I dislike yet. That's probably going to happen though eventually. Am I just blinded by nostalgia on a lot of these movies? Because a lot of these movies, particularly this and Home, aren't that well received, which we're going to get on to now as we talk about the reception. I'm just wondering if I am blinded by nostalgia, because particularly on my next short video, after season 7, that might be an issue. Yep. So, let's just get on to how this movie was received. But before we do that, I guess, since I try to be comprehensive and cover everything in these videos, the Amply got a video game which went along with the movie. It was just a quick license game, which didn't seem to cause much traction. Pretty much like the Rise of the Guardians game, there isn't that much to say about it. I didn't go out and play it. I know nothing about video games. You will have to remember that for the future, so let's remember that now. But, it seems like okay, and just seems to be like a weird, like an adaptation of a movie. It wasn't really received well, but that's licensed games, isn't it? They're never received that well. I don't know. Again, I really am nothing about video games. Okay, now let's get to reception. Okay, so first of all, the box on the critical response was okay, I guess. Mixed reviews is some way to go about it. As you can see on Rotten Tomatoes, it isn't rated that highly. 62% is, well, not bad. It's still rated fresh, but it's still not rated that highly. And it has a very bad audience score, 42. So, while the critical response is interesting, is mixed. The box office, well, it's a lot worse. This movie was not a box office success. It might be the biggest flop of this series so far. More than Rise, Alexander, and so on. It's weird. It opened to number 5, and then it was like number 8, and then it was like very early. It grossed barely above its budget, and didn't really stop. So, yeah, this movie, it's safe to say this movie was not a success. The production company that was also, obviously, that was making the movie, obviously also making Jimmy Neutron, shut down shortly after this movie became a flop. So this movie bankrupted a company, basically. So I'm pretty sure this movie kind of wants to be forgotten about. So why was this movie forgotten? Well, simply put, it wasn't successful. It didn't gross high box office returns. None in the slightest. And while it bankrupted a company, for fuck's sake, it doesn't really have good associations aside from Tom Hanks working on the movie. And the movie is, and maybe the same creator as Jimmy Neutron, but a lot of people don't remember that started off with a movie now, do they? But so this is pretty straightforward. No one talks about how bad it is either, because it's really unimpressive. It's just an average movie. I think it's decent, but solid 6 to 7 out of 10. But if the world thinks that, then it's understandable, especially as it didn't gross a high amount. It wasn't critically received a high or low amount. So it's completely understandable why this movie is so forgotten. It is, I also think this movie is less likely to get a renaissance than all of the other movies I've talked about here. Like, a renaissance like what movies like Megamind have gotten, for example. That they're now being talked about a lot more than they were in the past. But, it's because it bankrupted a company. Also because it's much older than the rest of the movies I've talked about here. I think this is good sort of to set that this movie is probably dead. I don't think it's the weakest movie I've reviewed here. That'll probably be Hope. But, so, its positives, I don't think it deserves to be as forgotten as it is. Hard to find that here. So, yeah, that's the end of the video. Please like, subscribe, and share if you like the video. Please follow me on social media in the links below. If you didn't like the video, then maybe hit dislike and leave a hate comment, because we always like to keep the algorithm happy. Until next time, see you later.